If you recall, during the percentages in everyday life video, we recognised the need to convert fractions and decimals to percentages. This video will show you how to do that. So, how do we change fractions into percentages? Well, firstly, we multiply the fraction by 100 divided by 1. Secondly, we do simplification if possible, before doing the multiplication itself. Now, if you're familiar with bow tie, this is when you would use bow tie. If you're not, don't worry about it. I'll introduce you to bow tie at the end of this video. And lastly, you would write down the percentage sign. So let's look at an example. If we have 7/20ths and we wish to convert it to a percentage, as you see, we write down 7 over 20 and multiply by 100 over 1. We now look for opportunities to simplify, and we can see here the only one is to simplify the 20 and the 100. So we'll divide the 20 by 20 to get 1, divide 100 by 20 to get 5. I can see no more opportunities to simplify, so I'll now do the multiplication. 7 times 5 is 35, divided by 1 times 1 is 1. So in other words, 7/20ths is equal to 35, and now we write the percentage sign. So that's that one. Let's look at another example. In fact, before we do that, let's just interpret this. So, in other words, if I got 7 out of 20 in my spelling test, this would mean I got a score of 35%. So our next example is, let's convert 3/8 into a percentage. So 3/8, we write it down and we write multiplied by 100 over 1. We now look for opportunities to simplify, and in this case we'll simplify the 8 and the 100. I'll divide both of those by 4, like that. We look for any more opportunities to simplify, but we don't see any because we can't simplify the 3 and the 2, can't simplify 25 and 1, can't simplify 3 and 1, and can't simplify 2 and 25. Those are the 4 different ways you can simplify. We can't do any more, so we now do the multiplication. So 3 times 25 is 75, divided by 2 times 1 is 2. So now I need to divide 2 into 75, so I'll do a short division to help me with that, to make sure I don't make a mistake. So 2 into 7 is 3, remainder 1. 2 into 15 is 7, remainder 1. Must remember to put in the decimal point here and here. 2 into 10 is 5. So now we have our answer. 75 divided by 2 is 37.5. And if you remember, now we write in at the end the percentage sign. So in other words, 3/8 is equal to 37.5%. Moving on, we'll now look and see how do we change decimals into percentages. The process is as follows. Firstly, we multiply the decimal by 100 by moving the decimal point 2 places to the right. We then write down the percentage sign. So let's look at an example. If we wish to convert 0.85, a decimal, into a percentage, we first of all write down 0.85, and then we move the decimal point 2 places to the right. So the decimal point has moved from here, and it's now over here. We ignore the leading 0 because that's unnecessary, and then we read off 85 before the decimal point, so we've got 85. And then we write in the percentage sign. So 0.85 is the same as 85%. Let's look at a second example. Here we have 0.08, so we copy it down and we move the decimal point 2 places to the right. So the decimal point is no longer here, it's moved over here. We ignore the leading, which are unnecessary zeros, and we have 8 before the decimal point and nothing afterwards, so we just write down 8 and then insert our percentage sign. So 0.08 is the same as 8%. One more example. If we have 2.5 as our decimal, we copy it down, then we move the decimal point 1 place and a second place, as we always would. And now here we have to insert a 0. We note the decimal point has now moved from here and it's now over here. So we read off 250 before the decimal point, 250, and insert our percentage sign. So Here we have 2.5 is equal to 250%. So, given we just had 250%, it's obvious that you can have percentages greater than 100%. So let's take a look at this. Now, normally we work with percentage values between 0 and 100. However, as we've just seen, you can have percentage values greater than 100. Let's look at an example. If housing prices have increased by 250% since 1990, it means that they are now 3.5 times greater in value than they were in 1990. In other words, or by example, a house worth $150,000 in 1990 is now worth 3.5 times $150,000, which is $525,000, in the current day. Now, I mentioned bow tie earlier, and I know some of you are not familiar with it, so let me try and explain it to you. So, here's what it is. When you see two fractions separated by the multiplication sign, we say you have the opportunity to use bow tie. And this is because the 4 allowable ways to simplify look like a bow tie. So, for example, if I have 3 divided by 16 and I wish to multiply by 4 divided by 9, what we say is that the 3 and the 16 on the left hand side looks like that, the 4 and the 9 on the right hand side sort of looks like that, we have a diagonal here and a diagonal here, and we have a multiplication sign in the middle. So in other words, when you see one fraction and a second fraction separated by a multiplication sign, we want you to think about bow tie like this. And what it means is as follows. It means that you could either try and simplify here, in other words the 3 and the 16 if that worked, or here, the two numbers on the right hand side, you could try and simplify them, or diagonally you could try and simplify these two numbers, and lastly the fourth way you can do it is you could try and simplify these two numbers. Now, you don't need to follow that order, you can do it in any order which you see fit. So what we're now going to do is we're going to notice that we can't simplify 3 and 16, and we can't simplify 4 and 9, but we can simplify 3 and 9, so let's do it. We'll divide both of these by 3, giving us 1 over here and 3 over here, and then we look at the 4 and 16 and realise we can divide both of them by 4, so I'll do that like that. Now, there are no more ways to simplify, so I can now do the multiplication. 1 times 1 is 1, divided by 4 times 3 is 12. So in other words, 3/16 multiplied by 4/9 is equal to 1/12. So that's really the bow tie process. Now, we recommend that you think about bow tie for several reasons, and it's often to help you be more accurate in your maths and to simplify multiplications of fractions, which can be quite tricky. Now, you need to remember that you have to have a multiplication sign to simplify like this. In other words, you cannot simplify like this for addition, subtraction, or division of fractions. Secondly, you can simplify repeatedly, as we did in the last example, and in any order. Thirdly, you can't simplify the two numerators or the two denominators, and bow tie helps you remember that. So if you remember, think about this. This is what bow tie looks like. There's my multiplication sign in the middle. What it's telling me is there's no line across here between these two numerators, so I can't simplify the numerators. Nor is there a line across here between the two denominators, so I can't simplify there either. And lastly, it is always recommended to simplify if you can before multiplying, and that's because you'll end up with smaller numbers to multiply, it's quicker, and you're less likely to make mistakes. So that's the end of this video. I hope it's been of value to you. Don't forget, we recommend now that you complete your WSQ notes, and please include some good questions to bring to class, because that's an important part of the WSQ process.